Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this seminar. I'm Roderick Floud. I'm the Provost of Gresham College, and I'm delighted to welcome you to the college. For those of you who haven't been here before, the college has been providing free public lectures in the City of London since 1597 under the will of Sir Thomas Gresham. And we still do that. We provide lectures here and in the Museum of London, and you will be very welcome to subscribe to our mailing list and go on the website to find out more details, and we have a printed programme. But we have great flexibility at Gresham in terms of the funding that we receive from our sponsors, the Corporation of London and the Mercers Company, to put on all kinds of different events, seminars, lectures, conferences, press conferences, symposia, etc. And so we're particularly pleased, I'm particularly pleased to be able to have this afternoon what is the third of a series of events, if I can call them that, on the topic of middle-class recruits to communism in the 1930s. In a minute, Nicholas Deakin is going to describe what topics we've covered and what lessons we've learnt from the two previous sessions. But it may be helpful to recall what prompted us to embark on what has proved, I think, to be a very interesting series of investigations. And the motive, I suppose, is essentially personal to me. It all stems from a letter that I wrote in the Times, to the Times, in which I protested at the fact that the Secret Service file relating to my father, Barnard Floud, who had been a communist in the 1930s and later became a Labour MP, had not been released to the National Archives, as many others had been. He died in 1967, so I was protesting on this topic some 40 years after his death. And I argued that it was impossible to obtain a proper historical understanding of the 1930s and of the reasons why so many people joined the Communist Party at that time without the release of archives of that kind. This letter completely failed to move MI5, who are still maintaining that they may release the file in 2017, 50 years after my father's death. We'll wait and see. I hope I live to see it. But the letter had another happier result, which was a letter from Sir Ronald Mackintosh, a very distinguished former civil servant who'd served with my father in the 1940s and who admired him. He didn't believe that, as Peter Wright and others in MI5 had alleged, my father was a Soviet agent, and that judgment has been confirmed by Professor Christopher Andrews' recent history of MI5, in which he had access to the MI5 files which we're not allowed to see. Ronnie also had a personal interest in that his sister, about whom we'll hear later, was also a member of the Communist Party at that time. Over a series of very pleasant discussions, we agreed that the topic of middle-class communists in the 1930s needed proper historical investigation. And we hit on the idea of a Gresham seminar, and even more fortunately, we hit on the idea of asking Nicholas Deakin to lead the project. And this is the next stage in the project, and at the end we will discuss where we go from here. So that's where we've come from. In a moment I'll ask Nicholas to speak, but just to make one final point, we have a very tight timetable today. We've even sacrificed a tea break, partly because the logistics of serving tea to 150 people is just very time consuming, but we will finish with drinks at 6:30. That tight timetable means that I'm going to be very hard on the speakers, partly so that you, the audience, have a full chance to participate, and we've provided time during the afternoon in which we hope that you will discuss the topic and give us your views, your reminiscences in some cases of family members, and questions for the panel discussion at the end. So thank you all for coming, and I'm going to hand over to Nicholas.